Sure. Yeah, please. Very welcome. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay. So, Namo Buddhaya. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Good morning. It's quite late where Ayya Brahmavara is right now, so um, in the UK. So very glad that you can join us from afar and share with us some teachings today on this sutta study program. So Brahmavara has been a monastic for about 25 years now, as a bhikkhuni for the last 4 or 5, having ordained as a bhikkhuni together with me in 2021. But much more experience than that in many ways, and we're delighted to have her joining us today and sharing her wisdom and her studies. So welcome, Ayya. Uh, we usually start with just a few minutes of uh, meditation and then go into the sutta study. So would you, and it could be either silent or just a few minutes of guidance, up to you, about 5 or 10 minutes. But I'll let you take that away.
Thank you so much, Venerable. It's wonderful to be with you all for this sort of study group. Yeah, maybe we can sit in silence together for about 10 minutes.
Okay, I can ring a bell in about 10 minutes.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Sutta study group. Thank you for your kind introduction, Venerable Kochina. It's wonderful to share this space with you and everybody. I'm going to see if can I do the screen share, Venerable
I think
Kochina?
so. I've made you a co-host. I think you should be able to screen share.
Thank you so much. So, friends, we're going to look at Majjhima 112, Chabbisodhana Sutta, the 6 kinds of purity. And just to say a few words before we start looking at the sutta, it's a very interesting teaching from the Buddha. Really telling us what is the state of mind, the state of heart, what is the insight, what is the way of being of one who is fully liberated in all different aspects. So it's really valuable to look into. And also here the Buddha is saying that if somebody were to claim enlightenment, then rather than celebrating or rejecting their claim, that we should question them. And he gives us these ways of questioning to reveal and to really discern what is the state of mind of this person. So it's a very rich and full sutta, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen if I can find it. Just see where it's gone. Sec. There we go. So I've got the Sutta Central Bhikkhu Sujato's version. And can you all see this okay? Great. Thank you. So coming to the top, Chabbisodhana Sutta. We're going to start going through this sutta. It really comes in 6 parts or 5 parts.
Get any bigger?
Yeah, I'll give that a go. It should be whole screen. There we are. Is that better?
Can you expand the text?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's better. Yes, I think so.
Okay. That's wonderful. That's as big as I can go, I think,
All right, I think
with my little laptop.
that's better.
Thank you, Venerable. Okay. Okay, so let's begin. I'll start by reading through and we'll pause at various places and we can discuss as we go along and explore this sutta together. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Nathapindika's monastery. There, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, Venerable Sir, they replied, the Buddha said this: take a person who declares enlightenment. That is Ayya. This word Ayya, meaning, in this case, meaning insight, knowledge, awakening. To try and get back to where I was. So take a mendicant who declares enlightenment. I understand, such a person would say, I understand rebirth is ended. The spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There is nothing further for this place. So this is the, isn't it, standard declaration that the Buddha himself made regarding his own enlightenment, and that is made by those who have come to the end of the path. So I think we could actually look at this in a little bit of detail. This statement, rebirth is ended, meaning rebirth in terms of lifetimes, also meaning, and I consider it, this becoming energy, this intentionality around becoming and being, making and doing, that also has ended. In this way, rebirth has ended. But traditionally, this really means there is no further rebirth after the death of the body of such a person. The next statement, the spiritual journey has been completed. Actually, this is brahmacharya, the holy life. Or this can mean, you know, the Eightfold Path has been fully practiced to its completion. All 8 path factors have been fulfilled, have been perfected. And then what had to be done has been done. This statement, katang karaniya. It's a really beautiful statement to consider. That which we should do has been done. What is it that we should do? And in the commentaries, what it is that we should do is the fulfillment of the Four Noble Truths. So how do we fulfill the paradigm of the Four Noble Truths? First Noble Truth of suffering. How do we fulfill, how do we perfect, how do we use this First Noble Truth to complete the path? Can anyone say, what is it the Buddha himself declared, you know, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, his first sermon in relation to truth?
That it is to be understood.
Sadhu, that it is to be understood.
And had been understood.
Such a person has understood, has fully understood, has understood suffering. And the second noble truth, what is the cause of suffering? How does such a person relate to this in a complete and perfect and full way? Upasika Elaine.
Oh, the question again, please.
How do we relate to the second noble truth? How do we work with it?
The causes of suffering. First, I think the first one is recognizing that worldly things are a lot of suffering and not to cling to them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, the second noble truth is that truth of that the cause of suffering is clinging. Yeah, is clinging, is desire, is tanha, is craving. And how do we relate to this? What is to be done in relation to desire, friends? The Buddha himself declared, I have
Extinguished?
Say again.
Extinguish, cessation.
Right. I have fully let go of, I have fully abandoned pahana. I have fully let go of desire. So this declaration of the work having been done, the Arahant has done the work of fully letting go of desire. This in relation to the second noble truth. And the third noble truth, which is the cessation of suffering. How do we relate to this? How do we complete and fulfill this third noble truth, Elaine?
The Noble Eightfold Path, Ayya.
Oh, you're so close. Like that's
Well,
coming next. That is coming next, but thank you for bringing it in, because in relation to the fourth noble truth, the noble truth of the way,
cessation.
right, cessation is the third noble truth, and the fourth noble truth is the way, the path. And you know, the fourth noble truth is to be developed. The eightfold path is to be developed. And one who has completed the task has fully developed the eightfold path. So this in relation to the fourth noble truth, wonderful. And we'll just jump back to the third noble truth of cessation. How is this to be perfected, this third noble truth? What did the Buddha himself say he had completed the task by? Sachi, how does it go, Venerable Kachina? Sachi
Katabang, that is to be realized.
Sadhu. This third noble truth is to be realized. That is to be experienced. That is the end of desire. The cessation of desire is to be fully realized. So one who has done the work, this declaration, Katang Karaniyam, I have done what should be done, is a person who has understood the first noble truth of suffering. They have abandoned the cause of suffering, second noble truth. They've abandoned desire, abandoned craving. They have realized the end of suffering through the cessation, the letting go, the end of desire, and they have developed fully the path. That is the eightfold path. The fourth noble truth, the way out of suffering, has been fully developed by such a person. So this is the announcement that's made, and there's a final part. Let's come back to the sutta, where such a person declares, there is nothing further for this place. There is nothing further for this place. Have you got another interpretation of that for us, Venerable Kachina? Another translation?
Right. Well, I'm not remembering how the others translate that one. I think you could find out on Sutta Central. You could get over to somebody else's translation pretty quickly. But
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking up the words here, friends. You can see what I'm doing. The present state,
there is
such
nothing
an
else for this existence.
Nothing further, no future state, nothing different to. That's very interesting. I'm not sure what Bhikkhu Bodhi says. Ananea, can you tell us?
Well, no, but I'm just, this is the no further rebirth, that there will be no more for this place. You're not coming, it's done, it's finished.
That's it. That's it. Thank you so much. That's really clear. Yeah, it's all done, finished. There's no more future. There's no more rebirth. The work has been done. Such a person is finished. So this is the statement of one who declares enlightenment. And the Buddha goes on to say, now one should neither approve nor reject that person's statement. That is, not to react one way or the other, not to be elated, not to be skeptical, but rather we should question them, explore. What is it they're saying? Is it true? And how can we find out whether or not it's true? So the Buddha says one should question them. Firstly, ask them this. These four kinds of expression have been rightly explained by the Buddha, who knows and sees the perfected one, the fully awakened one. What for? One speaks of the seen as the seen, the heard as the heard, the thought as the thought, and the known as the known. So this is interesting translation. One speaks of that which is seen, ditta, heard, sutta, sensed, mutta, and cognized, vinyata, is another way of translating this. And this is one paradigm, friends, isn't it, for our experience? We could look at our experience through this lens. What do we experience in this embodied form, in this life? We experience seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. So this points to, in a way, the six senses, this paradigm. This is one way of considering it, that the sensed is that which is touched, tasted, smelt. So all the sense bases are covered here. And this is one way of experiencing the world. Back to the sutta. Having a bit of trouble here. I want to get rid of the never mind, I'll just work with it for now. Okay. Thank you. So the question is, looking at this paradigm, this way of experiencing the world, how does such a person know and see regarding these four kinds of expression so that the mind is free from defilements by not grasping? So really questioning, how do you relate then to these aspects of our experience? And for one who's made the declaration that they're free of all the defilements, they've completed the journey, done what had to be done, laid down, achieved their heart's goal, utterly ended the fetter of continued existence, and is rightly freed through enlightenment. For such a person, it is in line with the teaching to answer in this way. So this is the way that one who is fully liberated would respond. How do I relate to these aspects of experience? And they would say this: regarding what is seen, I live without getting involved or shying away, independent, untied, liberated, detached, with a mind free of boundaries. So this is the way in which we are all inclining, the way in which we're all inclining to relate to the seen, the heard, the sensed, the cognized, without getting involved, without getting identified with, without shying away, without the push and pull of desire and aversion, without reactivity around our experience, independent, untied, detached, and with a mind that's free of boundaries, an open, immeasurable, perhaps, mind. And the question and answer goes in terms of each of these aspects: the seen, the heard, the sensed or thought, and the cognized. If such a person answers in this way, that in relation to each of these, they're not getting involved or shying away, they're independent, untied, liberated, detached, with a mind free from boundaries, then one can say to them, good. One can applaud and cheer that person's statement. So I'll pause here. This is the first of the questions and responses from one who's fully liberated. I'd like to ask you all to see if you have any comments, questions, as we just take in this teaching, this response, this way of relating to our experience. Daniel.
One thing that always strikes me, is the comment about neither getting involved nor shying away, which to me feels very reminiscent of the middle way. First spoken of course, about extremes in eating and asceticism, but you see that concept pop up over and over again. It seems like it's here, neither getting involved nor shying away.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really reminiscent, isn't it, of the middle way of not overindulging and not being overly ascetic, just finding that balance, that point of balance. And I think here it refers to, these core defilements, those core, you say, enemies of liberation, enemies of meditation, desire and aversion. So to be an arahant is to be completely free of these tendencies, this push and pull, to have eradicated entirely, uprooted entirely these tendencies. And isn't it by following the middle way, we get the chance to have the degree of freedom, the degree of perspective that enables us to work with these energies, along with the other hindrances of, sloth and torpor and restlessness and also doubt. But here, yes, the core defilements of desire and aversion, such a person is saying they're no longer playing out. There is the independence. There is the liberation. And we can also consider, the core defilement is ignorance, is not seeing clearly. And I'd say it's implied here that one has broken through, one is seeing clearly. There's no longer the fog of ignorance obscuring the view. Thank you, Daniel. Anybody else like to come in with comments, reflections? Shari?
Yeah, just a brief reflection. It's not, this isn't, it's just a comment. I think that this passage presents Buddhists living in the world as lay people with a dilemma or an issue that we have to deal with over and over again. How to be in the world with detachment and yet really maintain our values of the four Brahma Viharas. And so I think like finding that balance is a continual challenge, I guess I want to say. It's a dilemma that we face on a daily basis. So I think I'm not sure that there's an easy answer to it. I mean, we can say, oh, this is what the sutta says, but actually living that can be not easy.
Totally hear you, Shari. And all of these teachings really in this sutta are pointing to the completion of the work, to nibbana, to the final goal, and how that expresses itself you know, so it's really for our inspiration, but also for our guidance, because this is the way we're moving. If we're on this path of practice, we are surely moving in this direction. And it's very interesting to me that we had mention here of the mind that's free from boundaries. Such a person has a mind that is free of boundaries. And that brought to my mind the Brahmaviharas, you know, and you say this is the way in which we can relate to the world around us. And I absolutely agree with you. And I feel that, you know, bringing in these immeasurable qualities that are, I would say, our true nature, if we have a true nature at all, it is the mind that is unobscured, the mind that is naturally relating to experience with loving kindness, with equanimity, relating to suffering with compassion, and relating to well-being with joy. This is, you know, the mind that is clear, the heart that is clear, relates in this way. And we can see this manifesting in our lives. And yes, there are many issues and dilemmas and responsibilities in lay life. But nevertheless, isn't it, Shari, we can point our compass in this direction. Be focused on the goal. Be pointed, be directed, have mindfulness at the forefront. Develop the Eightfold Path factors. And we are stepping, you know, in the right direction. And I feel like we can all take heart, you know, we can feel sometimes overwhelmed by the complexity of life and the confusion. For as long as we have the roots of ignorance in the mind, in the heart, but we are able to keep directing ourselves, you know, and focusing on the path. And in this way, we are slowly but surely, you know, obscuring, rather removing, removing the obscurations. So thank you. I mean, we can all reflect in this way that Shari's reflecting, you know, how does this come home to me? How does this relate to my life? Anyone else? Upasika Elaine.
Thank you, Ayya. A Tibetan monk once mentioned that there are a lot of hooks, and it's hard to see what those hooks are. You can think, I'm joining this protest because I believe this side is right. And then somewhere along the line, you can see the hurt and the pain on both sides. But the hook really going to protest, right? Because then that leads to leads to anger, and it's kind of a downward. So I see the aggregates as being a lot of hooks. And once it's got you, then it's kind of a path downwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Upasika Elaine. Just let that beautiful reflection land for everyone. It really leads us on to the next part of this sutta. So let's continue the exploration in terms of the khandhas, friends. Coming back to the sutta. So, having applauded and cheered on the statement of this person regarding their relationship to the seen, heard, sensed, cognized, we should then ask another question. In this way, ask this person, now these 5 grasping aggregates, 5 khandhas, have been rightly explained by the Buddha. What 5? That is, the grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, choices or sankhara, volitional formations, and consciousness. These are the 5 grasping aggregates that have been rightly explained by the Buddha. How do you know and see regarding these 5 grasping aggregates, so that your mind is free from defilements by not grasping. For one who is free from all suffering, for the Arahant, it is in line with the teaching to answer in this way. Knowing that form, also feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, knowing that these are powerless, faded, and unreliable, I understand that my mind is freed through the ending, the fading away, the cessation, the giving away and letting go of attraction, grasping, mental fixation, insistence, and underlying tendency for form, feelings, perceptions, formations, consciousness. So in relation to these 5 khandhas, such a person knows that they are powerless. It's interesting, this word, powerless. Abalam. I see that as the word that comes to my mind in relation to this is vulnerable, shaky is another one, unreliable. These formations, this body, this mind, it is so vulnerable. It is so unreliable for us. It is fading out. Viraga in this context means decaying, departing, changing, not in our control. These words come to my mind. And unreliable. All the world is shaking. There is nothing here that we can rely upon, depend upon, feel safe around. So such a person appreciates and fully understands that these 5 khandhas are not to be held to, are not to be identified with, are to be let go of, to be given away. And such a person's mind, heart is freed through the ending, fading away, cessation, giving away and letting go of all attraction, grasping, mental fixation, any ideation around, any selfing around these khandhas. So friends, this is the second question and response from one who's fully liberated. How to relate to these 5 khandhas skillfully. How does one who's free from suffering relate to them? It's quite powerful, isn't it? We can consider how we relate to these 5 khandhas, to this body, to these aspects of mind, our feelings, perceptions, thoughts and ideas and concepts, and consciousness itself. For me, this is a very good mirror. It's a very good reflection for us. And just see what comes to mind for you. Are we free? Do we see these as fading, as not self, as vulnerable? Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. The use here of the word powerless, I think, is to say that these things have no power over you. It's your mind that's grasping at them. And you can see what he says afterwards, how the person relates to them. I don't have the text in front of me, but those words after, you do this, if you look at it that way, you're doing this, they're not doing anything to you. That's why they're powerless. It's you who's grasping them, you who's imagining that you need them, you who's making a fantasy Sankara stories in your mind that, I need this, that, and the other thing like that. I think when the table is turned like that in the mind of the Arahant, he sees that it was his own mind that was caught up in grasping in all of these things due to avidya, ignorance, or as I prefer to say, incomplete knowledge. You know, it's not that the thing itself could do anything to them. He was imagining it. He was involving himself. He was grabbing, or she, doesn't matter, he or she. Hey. Anyways, that's my point. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Richard. That's a wonderful interpretation of this word. Yes. Yes. It reminds me of the simile of the killers. I can't remember where that is in the suttas, but to see the khandas as, you know, like the assassin who, in order to complete the task of assassinating and killing, finds it best to do so by being friendly, being a good servant, being a seeming support for the person who they're intending to assassinate. So they get close to them, they're friendly with them, they become trusted by that person, and then it's very easy for them to dispatch that person, to do them in, because they're close. They can get close to them when they're vulnerable. In the night, perhaps we're fast asleep and they can come and kill us. So in the same way, this relationship to the khandas, if we rely on them, depend upon them, if we're attracted and attached and not independent of them, then we are very vulnerable. We're really in danger. So this is the thought that comes to me after hearing your great reflection, Richard. The simile of the assassins. Anyone else like to come in? How we relate to these khandas. This is, of course, another paradigm for us. It's a very common one, isn't it, in the Buddha's teachings, to divide up, you know, to divide and dissect our experience in terms of these 5 heaps, which is what the word khanda means. We can see that everything that's experienced here can be looked at through this lens, with this paradigm. Our entirety of experience, we can say, can be categorized in these 5 ways. It's very helpful, isn't it, to be able to take in these teachings and to have this kind of very scientific, objective way of relating to experience. And in this way, we're developing this kind of dispassion, this way of seeing more clearly what's going on. And so we get to relinquish, to let go of our dependence upon, our attraction towards these grasping aggregates. Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Yeah, so the next term is, so viraga is also connected with emotion, because raga means color or hue. And people think of emotions as like, you know, I have the blues, or I'm red with anger, or red with passion, or something like that, right? So it's a very common type thing. And so that's like what you're saying about the killers. So that's your emotion. Oh, this servant of mine is so good. He's such a good friend and confidant to me. You know, I mean, those are like emotional type interactions with thoughts. But in reality, that servant is totally unreliable, and which is the next word. I don't remember the Pali off the top of my head, but whatever the next word in the 3 words there, it's, you know, unreliable or not substantial, temporary, or something like that.
That's it.
Um,
Yeah.
So, and it reminded me as you were speaking, telling the story about the servant that was a killer. One can imagine it like this. You may have seen a cartoon. I've seen cartoons like this, where the character is running up like a bunch of boxes, where he steps on one and it falls away, and he just has enough time to get his foot on the next one, and then and then he gets on the next one, and finally gets to the last one, and then that's the end, you know. So it's like going, go, 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 you know, because each one is falling away underneath him. Anyway, it's just a thought that came to me. But thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Richard. That's a wonderful image. And it can be, for me, that's very experiential, when we can sometimes find ourselves letting go. When we have that experience of cessation, when we let go of some kind of desire, some kind of aversion, some kind of relationship with any of these 5 khandhas. And there can be this sort of cascade that can happen. We can let go of one thing and it can lead to another and another and another. And we can see how it works both ways. There can be the being trapped, being fettered, and how that can consolidate around us when we're in some kind of red heat of anger, or we have the blues. We can see how these states can grow the more we identify with and the more we kind of obsess around some kind of reactivity. And so this cascading effect can happen, but also when we release and when we let go, we can start to really notice a knock-on effect there as well. How freedom can manifest for us. Anyone else like to come in at this point? Okay, friends, let's move on to the next question. Because if one has asked a person who's declaring full liberation from all the defilements about their relationship to the khandhas and has received this answer, one who knows that the mind is freed through the ending, fading away, cessation, giving away and letting go of attraction, grasping, mental fixation, ideas around, insistence and underlying tendency for any of these 5 khandhas. When they say, this is how they know and see regarding these 5 khandhas, so that the mind is freed from defilements by not grasping, we can then applaud and cheer that statement, say good, and then ask this next question. Now referring to these 6 elements have been rightly explained by the Buddha. What 6? Earth, water, fire, air, space, and consciousness. How do you know and see regarding these 6 elements so that the mind is freed from defilements by not grasping? So what is the relationship of such a person with the 6 elements? How do they relate to them? And this is another paradigm for us. Interestingly, with the 5 khandhas, there is the more focused attention in a way to the mind aspect of our experience. There's body, that's one khandha, and then there's mind, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. So 4 aspects of mind when we look at the 5 khandhas. Here, looking at the 6 elements, rupa, on form, on the material world. So this is an interesting shift. This different paradigm has more emphasis in a way on our exploration of the material realm, doesn't it? So earth, fire, water, and air, and space. And then consciousness is the umbrella term here for the mind. And you all know about the elements, the 4 material elements. They're the 4 aspects of every material thing. Every material thing in this world has each of these 4 aspects. Even, water, a river is not just water element, it also has air element, fire element, and earth element as part of its makeup. What are these elements? One way of describing them, let's consider earth element, solidity, weight, substance. Water element, how would we describe that? Anyone like to offer some words to describe the water element? What is the quality of water elements that is found in all material things?
The fluidity, changeability.
Fluidity, yeah, fluidity. And another word that comes to my mind here, Daniel, is cohesion. Cohesion, it's that which brings things together. Got the image of powder or flour. And adding the water, what happens? It's very interesting, isn't it? It all comes together. You get the ball of dough. So water element has that quality of holding things together. We'd just be a pile of powder on the floor if it wasn't for water element. It's very interesting, as it gives us in a way, it gives us the substance that is the cohesive quality and fluidity. Yes. And fire element, what is this dimension of materiality? How can we describe it? Anybody?
Temperature.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Venerable. It's temperature. It's the hot and cold and everything in between. This is a part of all material things. All material things have this aspect. We call it fire element, but it means anything from freezing to boiling. Anything from, the coldest to the hottest. And air element, what are the qualities of air elements? Did you want to come in there? Ananea.
Oops. Movement.
Yeah. Movement.
Air in the lungs, the movement of the blood through the vessels.
Absolutely. It's the movement, it's vibration. Wind element. It's actually very windy here tonight in the UK. There's a predominance of wind element outside my window. And the movement of that blowing through. Yes, air element. And our breath, of course, is one way in which we can experience air element, and what a helpful object of meditation it is, because it's constantly on the move. So it grabs our attention. So earth, water, fire and air, these qualities, and then space is here. As part of this paradigm, space element is that absence. It's the spaces, it's the empty spaces. Mouth cavity in the body, wind in the digestive system. There are spaces. If there wasn't any space, we couldn't take in food or move it through the system. Spaces in the bones, giving our skeletal structure so solid, but also light, because it's full of space, and so on. And consciousness element. So coming back to the sutta, let's see what we hear from a person who is fully liberated. How does such a person know and see regarding these 6 elements? For such a person, it is in line with the teaching, I have not taken the earth element as self, nor is there a self based on the earth element, and so with all the other 5 elements. Not taking them as a self or basing a self upon them. And I understand that the mind is freed through the ending, fading away, cessation, giving away and letting go of attraction, grasping, mental fixation, insistence, and underlying tendency based on the earth element. So in the very same way as in relation to the khandhas, this is the wise, clear, liberated relationship to the 6 elements, with the additional phrase here, the additional statement, one does not take them as self, nor is there a self based upon them. Richard.
Thank you. I just want to make a note. Notice how Buddha is applying the idea of looking at the 6 senses not 6 senses. Is it 6 senses?
6 elements.
6 elements, sorry. 6 elements as a self. Many ancient cultures of the world were trying to determine what they call jiva. Jiva means life force, and it's related similarly to the word soul, actually. Soul comes from a Greek term. which means life force. So, and many of them had schools of thought where they thought, okay, the earth is the main constituent of the life force, the soul, or the water is the main, or air is the main, or fire, right, is the main constituent of this life force, or a combination of them, right? So that's where I think why Buddha in this particular case is saying, you know, don't make this error of looking for a self, right, a soul, a life force, right, in these elements, you know, because you're not going to find one there, you know. Anyways, I just thought I'd just make that point. Thank you very much for listening.
Great point, Richard. Thank you so much. Upasika Elaine.
I'm a bit confused by that because when it comes to contemplating your body and the six elements, it seems like your body is, but oh, okay, that's a rabbit hole. There's then you have to think about self, right? Non-self, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because in our practice, we're invited to really, in a way, take refuge in the body, you know, to pay attention to the body, to investigate, and all the time, rather than identifying more with that experience of embodiment, the call is to let go of any sense of self around it. And so it's really good to bring in this understanding of not self from the Buddha's teachings. We may not experience it, we may not fully understand it, but we can remember that the Buddha was again and again pointing to, this is not you, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. How much control do we have over these bodies? How much agency do we really have here? And actually, I think when we use this paradigm, this lens of the elements in relation to body contemplation, it's very helpful because it is very clearly, you know, like it's dividing and dissecting the body in such a way that it's very helpful in terms of letting go of the sense of self, continuity, that if there's anything holding together here, we're dividing it up in these ways. And so to meditate, contemplating earth element and feeling it out, the weight, the substance, feeling out water element, the fluidity, the cohesion, feeling out the movement of air element, the temperature that's here in different parts of the body. It all helps us to deconstruct and to let go of the sense of self around body, I would say. It's interesting as well what Richard was pointing to, these ways in which people developed, you know, views and opinions and concepts around the elements. You know, if we make much of these elements, make much of this body, we're tending towards a materialistic view of things. I am this body. And that's a huge rabbit hole, isn't it, Elaine? I mean, that takes us in that direction of nihilism, materialism. You know, death is the end. You know, once this body dies, that's the end of everything. This way, this view, and all its ramifications and all the different aspects and concepts that we can develop around materialism. And also, and then if we identify more with the mind, with the consciousness element, we can get into moving towards all the ways in which eternalism can manifest. You know, that I am this consciousness, this body is nothing, but this consciousness continues through space and time, and it's me and it's mine, it's myself. So we have within the attachment to the six elements, all the degrees of view around past and future, from the most extreme of eternalism to the basic materialism. And all of this is to be let go of. And such a person, a liberated person, is saying that any views, opinions, mental fixations, any attachment whatsoever to any of these elements has been put aside. I don't know about you, but I can almost taste that sense of space and freedom there to make it valuable for us, to make it relevant for us. We can consider the 6 elements and how we relate to them and bring them into our meditation, can't we, to really help us to deconstruct. Anyone else like to come in at this point? Okay, friends, we're going to move on to see the further investigation that needs to be done. When such a person declares, well, these elements, I don't take them as self. I don't base any sense of self upon them. I have fully let go of them. I've seen the fading away, cessation, giving away and letting go of any kind of attraction or aversion around them, any kind of mental ideation around them, any underlying tendencies based upon them. When somebody makes this declaration in regard to the 6 elements, we can say, good, that's wonderful. Applaud and cheer their statement, and then ask a further question. The next question is, and this could be even in 2 parts. Well, there are these 6 interior and exterior sense fields. We can say internal and external senses that have been explained by the Buddha. This is another paradigm, another way of experiencing the world. What do we have? We have these 6. We have the eye and sight, the ear and sounds, the nose and smells, the tongue and tastes, the body and touches, and the mind and ideas. These are the 6 internal and external sense fields that have been rightly explained by the Buddha. So we can ask such a person, one declaring arahantship, do you know and see regarding these 6 internal and 6 external senses? How do you know and see so that your mind is free from defilements by not grasping? How do you know and see these? And such a person, if the defilements are indeed ended, their answer will be like this. I understand that my mind, my heart is freed through the ending, fading away, cessation, giving away and letting go of desire and greed, relishing and craving, attraction, grasping, mental fixation, insistence and underlying tendencies for the eye, for sights, for eye consciousness, and for things knowable by eye consciousness, which is like a repeat of sights, I think. So in relation to each of the 6 senses, the response will be the same. In relation to hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, there is the ending, fading away, cessation, letting go of any holding, any desire, greed, relishing, or craving in relation to these experiences. So here we have, I think it's the 4th paradigm. What have we had? We've had the seen, heard, sensed, and cognized paradigm. We've had the 5 khandhas paradigm. We've had the 6 senses, the 6 elements paradigm, and now the 6 senses. I find this sort of very valuable as a way of seeing how we can divide our experience, view our experience. All these ways, bring them in, friends, you know, bring them in, contemplate them, bring them into the meditation practice. It's wonderful. We had this morning a guided meditation. I was teaching, guiding on Anapanasati, breath awareness, and a couple of people said they can't relate to that at all. They just don't find it helpful, valuable to observe the breath. It just doesn't work for them. And one of them said, it's the 6 senses that works for me. So to bring into the meditation, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. It's a wonderful way to meditate. We can just pick one of those senses and focus on that. Luang Por Sumedho famously focuses on hearing, teaches the sound of silence. He's tuning in all the time to the hearing sense. He's made that the object of his meditation. It's good enough. It could be any of the senses. We can pick any of these aspects of any of these paradigms and just see what works for you. So here we have the 6 senses and how a fully liberated person relates to them. Any comments, questions, reflections on this aspect of the sutta? Do any of you practice with the 6 senses? Yeah. I mean, we all do in a way, don't we? We surely do. If we're working with the breath awareness or body awareness, we're working with the touch sensation, feeling sense. How do you work with the 6 senses, Ananaya, your practice?
Thanks to Ayya Suchita, who was here about 4 or 5 years ago. She mentioned the sound of silence to me, because I'm not a person that readily took to Anapanasati or the breath particularly. I did metta practice, was my way in. And then she mentioned this to me, so I read his book, Ajahn Sumedho's book, and it was just like a door open, because I thought everybody heard that. I didn't realize that wasn't somebody else's experience. And anyway, so that's been like the foundation for me, is the awareness of that, and then can move into metta practice or whatever. But that's, and I'm focusing on it more recently, to really pay attention. I mean, I'm aware of it during the day, but to really pay attention to it all the time, and just work with it that way.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ananaya. Yeah, it's such a wonderful object of meditation. And you're pointing to what's so important for us all, is that we have our meditation practice, but it's training us to develop and cultivate the continuity of practice, the mindfulness, day and night, unless we're in deep sleep. This is what we're really aiming for, and whatever helps us to do this. And it's very interesting to me also just to note that whatever it is we're working with, whether it's some aspect of the senses, whether it's the hearing sense door, whether it's the body, the breath, whatever it may be, times in each of these aspects, the work that we're doing, the attention that we're giving, develops for us quite naturally the insight that enables us to let go. Is it not the case? The more we investigate, the more the inclination is to let go. I find this very amazing. It's not that we can rely on this and depend on this. Rather, we want to keep taking in the Buddha's teachings and reminding ourselves of the importance of letting go. But it's through really meeting the First Noble Truth, that is the way it is, through our practice, that the letting go happens. So to fully understand what we're experiencing is to be present for our experience, and in that attentiveness, that presence, that mindfulness, the letting go will naturally happen. The mind will naturally incline towards letting go. The mind naturally inclines toward nibbana when we direct it, when we make space, when we renounce. So I find that amazing. Yes, please.
Now, the other thing, this is an Ajahn Sumedho, happens to be also, is that, this is how it is. In whatever circumstances, like I'm, turned 80 last summer. And so this is how 80 is. this is how my life is now. There are things that change just by virtue of getting older or whatever, but really just trying to bring attention, you just have to let go of those things because this is how it is. It is not changing. And I don't mean that just physically. I mean, for whatever is happening, is that the reactivity really is the problem. It's like, this is happening. And so that's another focus for me, is you really have to let it go. You really, really have to let this go, no matter what it is, because it's only damaging to me. I cannot impact another person, my opinions and views and whatever. Not that I don't have them, but it's like, let them go, because it's just not helpful. Doesn't mean you're like, not thinking about things, or you're not current or able to take actions, in a thoughtful way or whatever. But so much of it's that the amount of views and opinions in one mind is like mind-blowing. It's mind-boggling of how much is rattling around in there. So anyway, so it's really just getting so very basic about let it go. This is how it is. Let it go. So it's an ongoing thing. And being an aversive type personality, that's I have a really large spectrum of things that I have opinions about. So yeah, anyway, that's the work.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu indeed. Thank you so much, Ananaya, for that beautiful reflection. It really leads on to the next part of this sutta, what's more, to the culmination, the last question that we would ask a person who declares arahantship. Let's have a look. The letting go. Yes, indeed. When somebody, just backtracking slightly, when they declare that relationship with the sense bases, sense doors, and sense objects, we can cheer and applaud that mendicant statement, that person's statement. But then there is another question that we should ask them, and it is this: how do you know and see so that you have eradicated I-making, mind-making, and the underlying tendency to conceit for this conscious body and externally for all signs? This crux of the matter, this crux of the problem that we're all laboring with until we're free of reactivity, as you said, Ananaya, free of all the views and opinions and the concepts that we're full of, this underlying tendency, the last fetter to go, making, my making, and conceit, however subtle. This is something we can really focus on and keep letting go. This conceit, mana, this aspect of conceit is that which compares, the mind that's comparing this with that, me with others, me making and then comparing me with you. And all the enormity of suffering that manifests as a result of this cascade of suffering, thinking of myself as better than, thinking of myself as worse than, thinking of myself as equal to, all these ways in which we compare and contrast, so much suffering, all collapses down into the sense of, or the root defilement of holding things together and making anything me and mine. So this question, how would one who is free from all suffering respond? Let's have a look. There's a long answer here, but we can summarize it. So the question, how do you know and see so that you've eradicated I-making, mine-making, and the underlying tendency to conceit? For one whose defilements are ended, it is in line with the teaching to answer in this way. And such a person in this particular sutta responds by describing the process of coming to know the path, coming in contact with the Dharma teachings, feeling inspired by those teachings, wishing to follow the teachings, in this case, recognizing the futility, therefore, of interacting with the world, going forth, that is to renounce the world, to let go of the world, and focus the attention on the practice, on path. In this case, they describe going forth and the way of practice. I'm just zipping through very quickly. Please read at your leisure all of this description of the way of practice for one who wishes to dedicate their life to liberation. So practicing renunciation, practicing the precepts. In the case of lay life, the 5 precepts, keeping those 5 precepts, the noble ethics, sense restraint, developing mindfulness and situational awareness, developing the meditation practice. So in brief, developing all the 8 path factors to their fullness. In the case of one who's fully liberated, developing samadhi, right stillness, the jhana, developing the insight, clear seeing, knowing and seeing the defilements, letting go of the defilements, recognizing the 4 noble truths, and as we spoke about at the beginning, completing the tasks, understanding the first noble truth of suffering, letting go of desire, the cause of suffering, realizing, fully experiencing the end of suffering, and developing the Eightfold Path to its completion. And then when one is freed, knowing that they are freed, understanding rebirth is ended, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there's nothing further for this place. This is the response of a fully liberated person. That is how I know and see, so that I've eradicated I-making, mine-making, and the underlying tendency to conceit for this conscious body and externally for all signs. In such a case, one can applaud and cheer that person's statement and say to them, we are fortunate, so very fortunate to see a person such as yourself. This is what the Buddha said, and satisfied those who were listening to him approved of what he had said. So this final question, let's consider the mind-making and the underlying tendency to conceit. Bottom line, isn't it, friends? And it's a really helpful paradigm for us, this last one, this 6th one, we could say. It's a very helpful paradigm to see where we may fall into I-making, mind-making, and conceit. And it's literally the sea that we're swimming in until we're not, isn't it? So how do you, question for you all to conclude with, how do you experience and how do you work with this tendency to make things mine, to exist at all, to compare ourselves with others? Any comments, reflections, or questions about this? Anybody aware of this inclination? Anybody aware of this happening for us? It's great to be aware of this. It's great to focus on this and to see where we can disentangle from this tendency to reify this one. Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. This might be helpful to people in thinking about the breath meditation or mindfulness. When you are focusing on the breath and repeating to yourself as Buddha instructs, I breathe in long, I breathe out long, and then as your body calms down more and more and tranquilizes, I breathe in short, I breathe out short, and then you become aware of the whole body. The reason for this repetition, I breathe in long, I breathe out long. So that's a vitaka. I breathe out long. Another vitaka. I breathe in long. Those are vitakas. Vichara is the repetition, the going around and around, repeating it over and over again. And this has the effect, if you focus very clearly on what's happening in the body, that you're not just saying those things, you're actually watching the breath while you do it, of overcoming the internal dialogue, so that your internal dialogue will eventually become silent. And so with vitaka vichara, when you can hold it for a long time and not be distracted, and the body has calmed down, you enter into the first jhana. And when you can hold it in the jhana for a continuous period of time, you should go into the second jhana. And the second jhana is you're still completely aware of the breath, but you no longer have to do the vitaka vichara because the internal dialogue has silenced. That's how you know when you're in second second jhana, is that if you're not thinking something, which you can think things even in that jhana, but if you're not thinking something, there's no internal dialogue going on. There's just a very relaxed, peaceful, aware, conscious, frame of mind. So that's actually what it's supposed to help you do. And that's why my personal opinion is that when you master the breath in the way the Buddha describes it, you gain complete mastery over your mind and body complex. So that, as the Buddha said, he can enter in any of the jhanas instantly. Just as a strong man flexes his arm, he can go into the jhanas or the formless states that quickly because you've mastered it so well. Whereas the Brahma Viharas, which are excellent, but it's a little bit more like sort of like just jumping ahead into those states without that complete mastery of body and mind, as a complex. It's like you're mastering the mind, but not that complete mastery of body and mind. And this is very helpful, specifically in the Buddhist time when he was teaching this for monastics, because monastics had to maintain control over their body, right, in order to be monastics, right. Don't let their senses get distracted, right. Don't do anything wrong. Don't say anything wrong, right. So that full practice gives you that ability, that power, really. Helps you a lot in that. I mean, you can do it initially in stages as you're moving along, but it really intensifies it. On the Sutta, Buddha mentions various practices that people were doing, including the Brahma Viharas, but he says, but for me, the best is the breath. The breath is the most supreme. Anyway, I just want to make that point, and maybe if you understand it in that way, it'll be helpful for people. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks so much, Richard. That's a very beautiful ending somehow, because I feel that, there's a lot in that last question, and the jhanas come into that last question. I encourage you all to read the sutta through and really tuning into what Richard's been saying. This is one way that we can see how the sense of self can be let go of when we develop our meditation. And we let go of thinking and we enter into states of stillness, we can start to recognize this selfing is not necessary. This selfing is suffering. This selfing is creating past and future. And all the aspects of mana, of conceit, which are just a torment for us, just a torture for us. And so thank you, Richard. Yeah, the jhana, the meditation practice, is a way in which we can begin to extricate ourselves from this sense of self. Friends, we could go on, but the time's up. And so we're going to have to conclude. Thank you so much for all of your wise, patient, insightful sharings and listening. I'll hand over to Venerable Krishna to do the closing homage for us.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you, Ayya. It was good
we'd
to
like
see you.
Yeah, first, I think we'd like to say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu.
anumodama. Thank you very much, Ayya, for joining us and leading us in this beautiful Sutta study today. And yes, we can go ahead and pay our respects to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in closing. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagawa Buddhang Bhagawantang Abhiwademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Right. Thank you again, Ayya, and thank you everyone for your patient listening, and hope to see you next time.